We pivot back to the NBA. Jordan, don't lift your pivot foot. Twitter bio of the day, the Pelicans. This also qualifies for NBA petty of the day. They updated their Twitter bio, the Pelicans did, to say, beat the Lakers by 28 in LA with a sunshine emoji. That's big talk for a team that in 20 years has never gotten out of the second round.
Also join a club that includes a lot of different franchises currently that have been just taking the Lakers to the tool shed. I mean, congratulations, Pels.
I mean, you got to take the opportunities when they come,
I guess.
And we take the opportunity now to welcome in ESPN senior NBA reporter Brian Windhorst. Brian, while we're talking about New Orleans and face of the franchise, Zion Williamson, haven't seen him in a minute. The franchise sent out an email to season ticket holders, did not include Zion in that email promotion, which would have been a no-brainer if you ask me. Brian, what have you heard as far as Zion's timeline and when we actually may be able to see him back on the court?
Well, real quick, the Pelicans, if the Lakers finish with the top 10 pick this year, the Pelicans get it. Wow. So winning that game had a little bit extra motivation, so push the Lakers back towards that brink. But anyway, obviously, we have not heard anything official from Zion in now almost 2 months. At the time, the timeline was 2 to 3 weeks. So the Pelicans have taken great care, and Zion Williamson's camp has taken great care to not allow anything official out about his condition. But it is clear within the team that they do not expect him to return in the short term. I don't want to sit here and be pinned down on anything because they are obviously buttoning it up very tightly, but it has not been a flow of good news. Zion was supposed to come back literally 5 months ago. So this has been an unfortunate situation. And really the question is, what can be done to make sure of his health, both short-term and long-term? They are barreling towards trying to make the playoffs. They made just CJ McCollum deal, trying to make the playoffs. But when they made that trade, they knew there was a good chance Zion was not going to be back this season, which is why they didn't put him in the literature for season tickets, because they just don't know when he's coming back.
Well, Wendy, in the name of synergy, let's bring it full circle here and mention those Lakers that we started with as we touched on the Pelicans. And the Lakers had a meeting of the minds, if you will, with Rich Paul, Jeannie Buss, Rob Pelinka last week. And a lot of speculation of what led to that meeting, what came out of that meeting. Where can you enlighten us on what took place and where this story is now advanced to currently?
Yes, it was made very clear that the meeting took place. If you didn't hear it in whisper, they yelled it. We had a meeting. Everything is fine. Look, I think both sides wanted to turn down the temperature. The Lakers didn't like the concept that they had irritated LeBron. Maybe Rob Pelinka went a little bit aggressive with his comments after the no action at the trade deadline. And while LeBron certainly said what he said over All-Star Weekend, he also didn't want to increase the perception that he wanted out of LA. He doesn't. He wants to stay there. But regardless of the nice face that they put on it earlier, right after the All-Star break, these two sides are not happy right now. This is what happens when a team underperforms. So what will be extremely interesting is nothing that happens the rest of this regular season. The referendum on this will happen in June and July when the Lakers have options to upgrade their roster while mortgaging future assets, and LeBron has an option to extend his contract past next season. Everything said between now and those decisions is really just public relations.
Brian, you reported extensively on the ultimate blockbuster trade, Simmons for Harden and all the other pieces involved. This question is personal for me, and I don't know if I'm supposed to say this. For SportsCenter Australia, you've been a guest on that show with me a number of times. I'm supposed to go to the game if Ben Simmons is on the court for the Nets' return visit to Philly and Simmons' return to Philly on March 10th. What are the odds that Simmons will be suiting up in that game? If I'm being selfish.
Yeah, I wouldn't buy any non-refundable tickets or hotel rooms because Rich Paul, Ben's agent, told me over the weekend that Ben is now considered week to week. He's had some back soreness, is what Steve Nash referred to it as. 6-7 days ago, the Sixers had a plan in place, from what I was told, that would have had both Durant and Ben Simmons back and active for that game on March 10th. But now that plan has been scrapped. Durant should be back this week, But Ben Simmons is week to week, and that game is next week. And as of yesterday, Ben hadn't even been able to do a full 5-on-5 workout with the team yet. So he's frankly not close. I don't even know if he's going to be back in March. I guess what week to week means check back next week. And next week is when the game is, and, it's just not going to happen. So, there's been so much obfuscation and protection and difficult with this Simmons situation. It's very hard to get your arms around it. But I think you can scratch March 10th.
Maybe I can make the case to go and watch Patty Mills or something in person, or talk to Sean
Patty
Marks.
Mills,
He's a Kiwi.
Still very big in Australia. Not the worst thing in the world. And you still get to watch a lot of talent. Wendy, as you look at how James Harden and Joel Embiid have come together, and boy, have they come together, looking like they're living their best lives alongside each other. And Philly is kind of captivated the East and the NBA as a whole. Also got to say, Phil, I'm thinking about getting one of those Sixers unis because you see how svelte, explosive, and slim all of a sudden James Harden suddenly looks in one. It's wild. I digress. But Wendy, going back to it, what's been the reaction around the league to what these Sixers now look like, and what do you believe they can be?
Boy, Embiid is just tweaking Simmons, too. I mean, he's doing it in his Embiid way where it seems like he's praising Harden, but when he says, I've never been this open, I've never had passes delivered like this, he's kind of doing both. But I will say, his first 2 games, he's got 40 free throws. 40. I mean, that's crazy. That's a rate that can't continue, but it's an illustration that driving lanes are open, and he's able to get the ball from Harden on the move, and he's so hard to manage when he's on the move in space. You pretty much got to grab him. So we've seen that, and we've seen Tyrese Maxey, who now, again, because the floor is more spaced, he is so fast that if you get him the ball, teams are closing out hard to him, and he's just driving past them. There's nobody back there. So those 2 developments, the Embiid free throws and the Maxey, has definitely gotten the league's attention. However, their first 2 opponents, the Knicks and Wolves, and they get a second half of a Knicks home and home on Wednesday. That's not a real challenge. What the league executives and scouts want to watch is what happens starting Friday. The Sixers play a 4-game stretch. Cleveland at home, which we'll see if Darius Garland can play. Then at Miami, who's now got a 2-game lead in the Eastern Conference for the number 1 seed. Then Chicago, who's in second place. And then the aforementioned March 10th game against the Nets at home, which means Kyrie and Durant, if not Simmons. So after those 4 games, let's check in on March 11th. And if the Sixers are still rolling then, like they have been this first couple of games, we've really got something to talk about.
Yeah, with the Sixers right now, today, 3 games out of that 1 seed in the East. Definitely a lot of movement to happen in the last third of the season. Wendy, thanks so much for joining us, man. Appreciate it.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.